we're really glad to be here. I think Taylor has a very interesting story in a really interesting industry when it comes to subscriptions that we want to spend time on here. A quick intro, I'm Joe Rorlick, CEO of Recurly. Recurly is a subscription management platform, and I think part of what's relevant to this talk is that a lot of our history has been in partnering with early innovators in different categories of subscription over time. Folks like Twitch in gaming, Sling in streaming, FabFitFun in e-commerce, in retail, and now we have an opportunity to partner with Alaska Airlines in aviation, which I'm excited about. So I think before we get into the sort of the story and the learning so far, it'd be great to get a little bit of just who you are, Taylor, and your role at Alaska.
Yeah, thank you, first of all. So my name's Taylor. I'm the head of Alaska's subscription portfolio, responsible for a little over $400 million in ancillary revenue every year, including subscriptions as a part of that. We're obviously a very passionate and happy partner of Recurly's, especially in this kind of innovative space for the airlines. Before this, I spent some time at Lyft and at Boeing, some companies that play a little bit in the subscription space now.
Excellent. So I think maybe stating the obvious, when we think about subscriptions, airlines not the first industry that comes to mind for most folks.
Yeah.
And would love to hear a little bit about kind of the origin story for how you came to start thinking about subscriptions at Alaska. And I think this gets into a little bit more of, even as I understand it, your role in ancillary products, which gets into these sort of new revenue opportunities, new revenue streams. So can you kind of set the stage a little bit for why subscriptions are even on the table at Alaska?
Yeah, absolutely. So Alaska Airlines started almost 100 years ago, transporting people in the state of Alaska between remote villages, and has grown a lot over time into a global airline. And as we think about our portfolio of products, we really push ourselves to be innovative. So we're driven by our core values, the last of which is be remarkable. And I think the remarkable word is really where I see subscriptions falling into. We want to be those kind of market leaders. So airline subscriptions are, I wouldn't say common, but are definitely more prevalent in Europe, Asia, and definitely in South America. And Alaska was the first to launch subscription service in the US. Since then, Frontier now has one as well. But we want to continue to push ourselves to be on the forefront because we recognize that our customers value that innovation. And it also allows us to offer differentiated products where a lot of the products in the airline market are very similar, right? You're flying economy, it's quite similar across airlines. And so we want to offer those kind of differentiated products.
Makes sense. And so I guess what falls into a subscription product for Alaska, and how did you think about that? Like what would compose this offer?
Yeah.
What would I as a consumer be able to subscribe to?
Yeah, so we have our flight subscription, which is based more in inter-California, where that competition between different airlines is really high. And so driving stickiness or loyalty to Alaska needs to go beyond a loyalty program and allow frictionless travel for a business traveler, which is where a lot of that plays into. For our newer product, Alaska Access, we wanted to, again, be the kind of first to market in the US with some type of bundled subscription. And so Alaska Access has three things: personalized fare pages, so really using some of that AI that you guys were just hearing about to predict and kind of put ease into the booking process. You also get early sale access, so you're able to book the sales 12 hours, know about and book the sales 12 hours before others. And that exclusivity is really a key interest point for the next generation. And then lastly, you get a Wi-Fi voucher. So Wi-Fi is becoming somewhat table stakes in the industry. And we wanted to find a way to provide immediate value through that bundle and also encourage people to utilize our in-flight Wi-Fi at the streaming rates that we'd like to see.
Okay, so it's, I mean, again, I think there's the core product of the ticketing subscription, but then there's a lot of these other ancillary benefits or products that become a part of this offer.
Yes.
This bundle at this stage. When you kind of came on board and figured out how you wanted to go launch this new offer, and I know this is something that ultimately went up to CEO level leadership at Alaska, how did you go about kind of figuring out what the right strategy was going to be from a product perspective?
Yeah.
And a technology perspective? I know your background is not just aviation. I mean, it's really as a product leader overall. So how did you think about what the right capabilities were going to be for you?
Yeah. So in terms of what makes up the bundle, a lot of that is really listening to the voice of the customer. In terms of what technology we leverage to power both that like acquisition and fulfillment side, I think anytime you're in a product role, you're in those kind of make buy decisions. And in this case for Alaska, which is maybe different than some of like the FabFit funds, right, that are subscription first, that's the core business. Subscriptions aren't our core business and never will be our core business. They are a differentiator, they're an alternative revenue stream, and they're a way to drive people to our core business and introduce some of that stickiness. So I recognized pretty early on that the make decision was not the best. One, we want to keep our engineers focused on the things that maybe other people can't do in the tickets and bag spaces. But not only that, like on the engineering resource side, I really wanted to find a partner that could provide insights and recommendations and that I could leverage as a partner, not just a software platform. I think that was the most important thing to myself and our executive leaders, because we recognize that we don't know what we don't know about subscriptions. And so to have a partner that could say, not ask me, what do you want your dunning cycle to be, but to say, here's what we think your dunning cycle should be based on all of these other data points. Does that sound good to you? How does that fit with your customer base? Like that's where I really found the most value and what I was looking for the most in a partner.
Yep, that consistent with I think what you've shared before. So you talked about kind of we don't know what we don't know, right? We're launching a new product, which is very, very nascent here. How are you thinking about how you're going to iterate around this? Like, what is the experimentation cycle look like, and how are you trying to go make adjustments based on what you're learning?
Yeah, so I think to your point, though the product is very new, we have kind of these ambitions to scale very quickly and a customer base that expects us to do that. Kind of part of having the brand of being an innovative airline, they expect you to continue that innovation. So being able to leverage a platform where you can make changes quickly without software engineering work, like all of that being built into the software we use allows us to scale very quickly. And beyond that, we are super passionate about experimentation, A/B testing. We can have all these hypotheses about what someone wants in a bundle, or how they want to sign up, or how they want to receive their benefits. But because subscriptions are so new to the airline industry, it's really important that we test those hypotheses and be open to being wrong. So being able to test in a statistically significant way will allow us to then iterate, as long as we're still getting kind of that qualitative feedback from our elite loyalty members, our internal flight attendants who get asked questions about the product, making sure that we're capturing both the voice and the kind of statistical data is really important for us.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And so you're now in the early stages post-launch. Like what are you learning? What are you starting to see that maybe was as expected or is a surprise?
Yeah, so I think maybe most surprising was the geographical distribution of our subscribers. So being a West Coast-based airline with a large base kind of in the Pacific Northwest, we expected our subscriber acquisition to be relatively in line with our route map. And within the first 3 days, and this was something that I actually saw on the Recurly platform when I logged in to look at subscriber numbers, but we had subscribers in all 50 states, like Rhode Island included, Mexico, Canada, and that really pushed me to think differently and change some of the marketing plans that we had for this summer to think more globally and really push ourselves to not make assumptions about our subscriber base. On the less maybe surprising side to us, something that we thought might happen, but was definitely interesting as we looked at kind of the customer preferences and trends, is that the product is resonating across all age demographics, but our acquisition is really driven by which marketing channel we utilize. So when we sent out an email announcement, we got almost all folks of the boomer generation. When we put the same exact advertisement in the app, though every Alaska flyer has to use the app because we don't have physical boarding passes anymore, we saw a huge Gen Z wave of subscribers. And so it was interesting to us to see that the conversion rates were actually only 0.001% different. So like our e-commerce, the conversion is happening the same way. It's just where we were capturing the audience, even though they were sent out to the same audiences. The channels that people responded to were different. Also the timing of when they subscribe, which is something that I follow closely, like again, using the Recurly tools, but we see that the older generations have a propensity to plan more. So they'll sign up for the subscription weeks, months in advance of their next booked itinerary, whereas the younger generations, the younger millennials and Gen Zs are subscribing day of travel. They're at the airport and they're thinking, oh, I did want to use Wi-Fi today. Oh, instead of paying $8, I should pay $5 and just sign up for this subscription and get these other things that are bundled in. And so making sure that we have the timeliness of our acquisitions or our acquisition strategy is really important.
I guess that kind of connects maybe into this thing I wanted to ask you about where this could go in the future around personalization for, for your consumers, right? Because to your point, it's basically, it sounds like it's an offer that you're seeing is relevant across a very broad variety of different types of flyers and, and consumers on Alaska. Like, what are some thoughts around how this may translate into a more, I don't know, maybe balancing simplicity versus personalization?
Yeah, so I mean, we're still admittedly very early, right? Alaska Access is 2.5 months old. There's not a ton of personalization we can do in the flight subscription itself, just inherently based on the product strategy. But thinking about Alaska Access, we intentionally launched with one offer at a very low price point, no personalization. And we did that because of some lessons we learned actually with our first subscription, which was the more offers of personalization or different configurations of the same product that we offered, the less conversion we saw overall. And by trimming down our number of plans, we actually saw better top of funnel conversion performance and longer term stickiness or higher lifetime value of those customers. A lot of that I think can be attributed to this like confusion or trying to do mental math. If you have a ton of offers in front of you or a ton of plans, you go, which one is actually the best value? Are any of them actually saving me money, right? You're like asking yourself a lot of questions versus a very clear offering. So we do intend to personalize, and I think personalization is important, especially for the younger generation. But I think you have to have a foundation to build on top of, so not kind of coming out of the gate with this personalization, especially since we're first to market for airlines. There's kind of this foundational education that has to happen. People don't know what an ancillary subscription is. And so to offer them too many things is overwhelming.
Okay, cool. Well, I want to close maybe on like, let's play, fortune tellers on the future for a second here.
Okay.
Like what comes top of mind for you when you think about the future of subscriptions in your industry and for Alaska Airlines? Like where may this be going next?
Yeah, so I think making sure that we keep things easy is important, and that's ease of use of the technology. People have less and less time that they're willing to dedicate to things like planning, not just in travel, but in general, right? Your attention span is very short, and so to sign up has to be easy. To retrieve your benefits or access your entitlements has to be easy. And I think that's something that we want to keep in mind as we continue to iterate on as we go forward. But we also recognize that to the next generation of flyers specifically, but really the younger generations that will continue to age into that more discretionary spending, they're very family and group-based, but their definition of family is much broader than maybe what the traditional definition of family was. So I'm very keen to focus into these kind of group plans or sharing plans, right? How can people come together to access the same benefits? How can my like family, who's maybe a roommate, like how can we share those things together? And so I think that's a trend that will continue, is wanting to share, but not in that maybe traditional family sense.
Very cool. So I'm a super loyal Delta flyer.
I know.
Which, yeah, I was supposed to say here. But I was telling Taylor, I had this experience where Delta let me down 2 weeks ago, and it was an emergency, and I had to get home. I noticed that Alaska had a flight, and I took it, and it was a incredible product, actually incredible experience.
Happy to hear that.
It was
Yeah.
really cool drinks on board, super amazing flight attendants. So I'm becoming a fan. We obviously want to do our part to follow through on our promise to help you have success over the next year. For you, what is success in this subscription launch? What does it look like a year from now? How do we know that this has been a success?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And also I'm glad you liked the drinks. If you've ever flown Alaska, you know, like all the food and drinks are very
They're cool.
local,
Yeah.
which is cool, especially if you don't live in the Pacific Northwest. In terms of success, I think for Alaska, trust and reliability is paramount. Because we're an airline, trust and safety is often what comes to people's mind. And I think that translates into any partnership we have, especially in subscriptions. So kind of uptime, right? You don't want to see that a website is down. If you're flying an airline and you're like, I can't even sign up for this subscription, what else is broken, right? Like that, it doesn't give you that comfortable feeling. So reliability is incredibly important to us. And so seeing that, tracking that, and then also kind of the stickiness of the subscription. So not only the retention, but as a company that has a core product beyond subscriptions, what is the change in behavior of people that are subscribed? So if they're subscribed to Alaska Access, are they flying more on our core product? Are they becoming Alaska loyalists like you, hopefully, right?
Subscription, the new loyalty.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think that's probably a good place for us to wrap. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. And if we can help any of you, we'd love to chat with you later from Rick Hurley downstairs. But thank you again, Taylor.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thanks, everybody.